The journey of the human being on earth has been a very mysterious one, and it's a journey which he himself does not even understand. So, in the next few minutes, would love just to dive into substantiating what really has been happening with man, because we are, us as human beings, we have been bound to accept whatever has been given to us, as long as it works at that time, as long as it gives us peace. But after some time, we realize that that peace was just temporary peace, and it brings very bad end results. Like we're we're living in the 21st century, we see that we are in a bad shape. But basically, I'm trying to speak to our household and the households and people who would want to look at some of these things critically, because we are still of a firm view that God told us in the book of Isaiah 33 verse 6 that wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of your time. In your times, what will keep you safe is knowing and wisdom. And we know that these two things are different. We know wisdom cannot be gotten from the earth, isn't it? Even in the book of Job, Job tells us man has tried to go to dig underground, make shafts, mines, dig diamonds in Mahun. While he's doing that, he's trying to learn the purpose of life. The Bible says the deep shouts back to man, we say, and says, we don't know where wisdom is. He's gone in the oceans seeking to know the beginning, the essence of life. The ocean says, we don't know. Some people have experienced near-death experience and have come back, and they have had a brush with death, and they come back with an answer that the grave says, I've heard a rumor, but I don't know what wisdom is. But through the household and through God, God has showed us that actually wisdom, as in the book of Proverbs, as it says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, isn't it? And to be precisely in the New Testament, when Christ comes, the Bible tells us that Jesus Christ is the wisdom of God. In fact, there are two essences in the Godhead: wisdom and love. Jesus Christ is the wisdom of God. Then God is love. So, and knowledge has been given to man. Knowledge is our portion. That's why Laoni has got a tablet, because man has been given knowledge. He can pursue things and create things, isn't it? The only shortcomings of knowledge that it creates things which can die. That tablet, after 5 years, it will be worn out and it won't work. That's how we know that this is human knowledge. Even good things we have, good cars. So man has been given this gift by God, wisdom and knowledge. And last week we spent time to try understand how has that happened, because this happened after God's creation. On the seventh day, the Bible says God rested from his works, right? And of course, in the past, we were taught God was like a human being. Resting means he sat down and stopped doing anything. But when you go to the root words of the Bible, works there means mlaka. I'm just trying to summarize what we've been going through. Mlaka means sending someone as your deputy. So when God rested, it was like he was saying, I'm sending man now as my deputy, isn't it? God, so man was deputized. That's why afterwards, even nature, because nature is controlled by God. I told you, man, nature, natural things, living things like plants and trees, even stones, they have the God power in them, which we understood through our lens that this is the Christ in you, the hope of glory. Because we also understood that Christ is not that person from Nazareth. Christ is a principle. It has been there forever, which was brought to be shown to us again through Christ, through Jesus who became the Christ. So this wisdom is what we are trying to propagate, and we want it to govern us. We want it to rule us. We want to transform ourselves into another human being, which is called the Son of God. So when God deputized man, everything was wired to think like that. That's why in the book of Romans 8, we don't tire to read this book. We might read it again. Romans 8. That's why this is happening in Romans 8. We need to understand this initial understanding of the human being. Romans 8. Verse 19. Are we there? I'll be very slow so that we all get to understand what I'm trying to say. It says, "For the earnest expectation of the creature waiteth for the manifestation of sons of God." Nature knows. They are not waiting for Jesus to come down from heaven. They are waiting for Laoni to be enlightened, isn't it? Because you are deputized by God. In fact, in the book of Psalms, if you hold your finger here, David says, "You are God, but you are dying like men because of ignorance." You see? We're experiencing pain and suffering because of ignorance. You see? It was said of them, "You are God, but you are suffering like men because of ignorance." How are we God? You know, when God created the world, he had man in his mind. That's why if you notice, man was created last, isn't it? Everything was created. First, God had to prepare the atmosphere for man before he created him. And everything was created for man and in man. Even what you call heaven and earth. For heaven and earth to balance, they must meet in man. So, even the way God wired man, and that's where we want to take us. How did God wire us? God wired us as gods. God created Adam. And you know, I was saying last week again, the Garden of Eden is what you call in science or in engineering, Laoni, you do a lot of these things, prototypes, isn't it? Yeah. So the Garden of Eden was a prototype. God was showing Adam, this is the prototype. This is what you're going to do to the whole world. You're going to create paradise. That's why he used terms like when he brings Adam into the Garden of Eden. Obviously, Adam, like you and me, was excited. I'm free, I'll be at peace, isn't it? But God told him, my dear friend, oh, till the ground, isn't it? Till the ground. And tilling the ground is not digging with a stick or farming. Till the ground means learn it, isn't it? Know it. That's why, hence, Isaiah 33:6, wisdom and knowledge. To know, you need to begin to learn, isn't it? If you are going to learn to know the earth, we need to begin to learn it. And Adam did that. I'm not going to quote scriptures. If you want, you can stop me. You know, this is a dialogue. It's not a monologue. You can say, no, Pastor, let us read that scripture or clarify. It's a dialogue. So, yeah, Adam, created by God, we know he was in the Garden of Eden, but the Bible does not tell us how long he lived there. He lived for us to speculate as human beings. Our knowledge up to now shows that he lived there for so long. Because why? He lived in a time, he lived so long that he learned the Garden of Eden. That in the book of Genesis, see what Genesis says too. Genesis 2. Genesis 2 verse 19. Are we there? Hold your finger in the book of Romans, we'll go back. Genesis 2:19. Are we there? The Bible reads, "And out of the ground the Lord God formed every beast of the field and every fowl of the air, and brought them unto Adam, to see what he would call them. And whatsoever Adam called every living creature, that was the name thereof." We all have been to school, and we understand what this is. Some Bible says he named them, isn't it? to see what name he would give them. So naming them there, we don't begin to assume in a primitive way that he saw an elephant and then said elephant. Because you will tell me that elephant is in English. In Siswana, do you say elephant? Naming there is a scientific nomenclature, which means classifying them, isn't it? He was actually classifying them. And how do you classify something? You need to learn it. Understand its physiology or its anatomy makeup. So what Adam did every morning, he will get one thing and pursue it. If he found a flower which was thrown to him, he will start learning it. He will know the cell makeup, even to its smallest component. The cells, the what, and then he'll begin to say these things have got the same properties. So they should be in the same class, isn't it? So he began to name them like that. You see? Just like Sister Sakara now, she's beginning to name her chicken. She knows if I mix the rooster from another place, it will come and kill my other rooster. Isn't it? She's learning. So God brought us. That's why I say man was brought on earth to learn. And I know we're coming from a place where we were told we are in this predicament because Adam sinned. Apart from Adam would have been okay. But Adam sinning was inevitable because God planned it like that. But if you tell me Adam sinned, it means Adam outsmart God, isn't it? But let's go back to the book of Romans again. We need to start looking at these things so intensely and start studying them and start musing about them, talking about them with each other and applying them. Romans 8, verse 20. We read 19, right?
Yes.
Verse 20 says, "For the creature was made subject to vanity, not willingly, but by reason of him who hath subjected the same in hope." It was like creation. The other Bible says the creation was made subject to frustration. You understand? Not because they were willing. Laoni, it's not because you are willing to be in this spirit. God has done that in hope. He hasn't done that to punish man. He says he has done that in hope, isn't it? 21 says, because. You know why he has done that? Because he wants to save man. He wants man, because he says, Mulaka, he sent him as a deputy. But this deputy must not be a robot. He must earn his deputyship, isn't it? He must become a god from this environment called earth. So he says, because. Remember, he says he has put him in frustration. And then he says, for that reason, because the creature itself also shall be delivered from the bondage of corruption into the glorious liberty of the children of God. That's the plan. You have to become sons. No wonder Paul would give words like, we must through much, not little, much tribulation enter the kingdom of God. So man was made subject to frustration. And how did God do that? He didn't bring AIDS, what? No. Those things came as a result of man falling short. What God did to frustrate man was to create man in the two parts which war against itself, the mind and the spirit, isn't it? So if you read in the Bible, the mind and the spirit are warring. The mind, when you go to to Romans 8, early chapters, it will show you God. It says the mind cannot please God. That's enmity already. Through your five senses, through the senses you use at university, you can never know God. That's the way it is. First Corinthians 1:20 says, man by wisdom could not know God. In fact, the wisdom of God is foolishness unto man. Because you can't substantiate it with a formula or with a university formula. Because God speaks to man through the Spirit. And remember, in the Spirit, there's no intelligence. There's no choice. You understand? You have no choice. In the Spirit, led by the Spirit is that you let God rule you. But mental comprehension is enmity with God, I've said. No wonder someone says mental comprehension is not a heartfelt reaction. So he brought that enmity. But what God has created that for a reason. He wants man. That's an exercise. If man can bring into subjective the mind and the spirit, they harmonize, then man has become a god. You see, to know good and evil. But when man who was confused ate of the true of the knowledge of good and evil, he became more confused. You see? So it is in that respect, in that understanding, that we need to begin to understand what has befallen us and what we are thinking now. No, these things are so provocative and so deep that they will require someone's undivided attention and lifestyle to understand them. It becomes you. What I'm trying to say is that in this world, we are not seeking to attain an easy believing, but also we are not interested in denying merely because others have denied, or doubting because doubts are fashionable. You know, it's not easy believing. It's not doubting because others are doubting, because it's what fashionable to doubt. We have not been successful in pushing back the boundaries of our history as humanity. Just give me an ear for short while, because this can help us think. By We have used human inventions like geology, we come to some knowledge, and by the further aid of earth knowledge and anthropology, we have a picture of a remote world. By that, we just have some knowledge, isn't it, in the remote world. We also have a fair picture of the modern world from the lives of the civilization of Egypt and those which flourished in the vast valleys of Euphrates down to the present time. See, it's this strange shadowy interval between the prehistoric world and the historic that we know that gives us the most baffling problem. We can't even connect the prehistoric and historic world. All we do is speculate. We are unable to stress the emergence of civilized man as we know him. Even religion, we are following the Roman religion. The Christianity, which was started at Nicaea in 325 AD. You see, history is a continuing history of things dying. That's the problem. Things are dying. You forget about them. But we need to become, like I was trying to bring your mind to a good attention. Adam's life is spent it studying things, knowing things, tilling the ground. That's what we're doing. We need to know our environment. You see? So we are completely confused as to even the origin of language. We don't, a simple thing as language. You see? We have some rather skillful thoughts about it, but still we are unable to explain a number of important things. We accept much, question little, and hope for the best. That's human being. You see? We accept everything. This man comes and does gymnastics and throws you some water. You accept it. You see? On another level, equally important, we are without any adequate knowledge as to the origin of the sciences that we now consider basic. Even sciences. Who invented mathematics, for example? And when? You will start popping questions, answers. The Greeks, the what? Even when you ask the Greeks, they'll tell you they don't know. In fact, in human understanding, they'll just tell you, it is believed there was this strange man who came, isn't it? And if you ask that strange man, you also tell me, it is believed where I got it. You see? I'm trying to open up your mind, you see? You see? So, who invented mathematics and when? We still don't know. That's a fact. Whenever we find the person or the condition which seems to suggest origination, we immediately strike a legend, or immediately strike a statement of that person that his knowledge was derived from another source. It's always a legend. They tell you a story. Like the legend of Garden of Eden, we were trying to discuss with Jace last night. The legend of the Garden of Eden. You see? You see? They will tell you that. We cannot pin down the original of these different forms of learning. This is especially true when we turn from history to Stone Age. Is it making sense? Are we getting somewhere? So even the Greeks do not or did not believe that they originated their own culture. Ask the Greeks. I did anthropology. They will tell you they didn't also. But for us, we think it's the Greeks. They said that their culture came to them by a mysterious person from a distant place. That's what they say. None of the cultural groups would take responsibility of originating its own culture. I'm trying to show you that sometimes we are so ignorant that even these people we call in legend, those are the things that they call it gods, actually. because we could not understand them. You see? So we have only myth to work with. Every one of these groups of myths tell essentially the same origin story. That the peoples came from elsewhere. And they came with leaders who had led them from some previous location. These leaders were responsible for the establishment of high orders of culture in primitive areas. Like in Africa, they came, missionaries came with their leaders. They brought culture and modernity in primitive areas, so to speak. These leaders were responsible for such things. Some culture refer to these mysterious persons as divine beings because they were different. Like, for example, the simple book of Genesis 6, the sons of